Hey, this is a foreigner in the Philippines. Good evening, welcome. What is it? It's book time, I guess. Books in boxes. Because we've had a couple of boxes that we've opened in the last couple of days, and because that and a combination of the fact that I'm under house arrest, I'm not supposed to be out doing anything, but I'm allowed to lift a book, which is a big thing, whether you know it or not. But I'm an abused husband. I have a tyrant for a wife, the warrior princess, and she won't let me do anything in case I might undo something that we had done at great expense 2 or 3 weeks ago on my vasectomy reversal. So we were told 6 weeks of doing nothing. So I can't drive. I did start walking illegally and got some pain after that. So it was wise that I just take things a bit easier. So she who must be obeyed is saying that I have to have a week where I do very little at all. So what am I doing? Well, sometimes we get books sent to us in these boxes. Now, a lot of the books that you can see on the back here, which I'll show you, but there's a ton of books there. There's a ton of books there, and there's a ton of videos there. So, a lot of them I haven't got around to reading, but I got 2 books which were sent to me very recently. One was quotes. These are quotes from famous people who are very, very bright, a lot brighter than me, of course, which doesn't take very much. But the quotes were enlightening. They were all different viewpoints of what many people had said. And I really enjoyed it and spent a lot of time, and of course I've read it from cover to cover. But one of the books that, well, the book that I've been reading, and I think this came from Buttercup. I think it came from a lady who likes to be known as Buttercup, and she sent this book. Now, I don't know what I'm thinking that Buttercup is a Christian, and this book is called The Case for Christ. So we're looking. Now, it's not that I think that I am capable of doing a review of such a book, but let me just read that it says The Case for Christ. So we're talking about the case for Jesus Christ, and it's a journalist's personal investigation of the evidence for Jesus, and it's by a man called Lee Strobel. And Lee Strobel was a seasoned journalist. Let me put my glasses on. Okay, a seasoned journalist chases down the biggest story in history. So, is there credible evidence that Jesus of Nazareth really is the Son of God? Now, he retraced his own spiritual journey from atheism to faith. Lee Strobel, former legal editor of the Chicago Tribune, cross-examines a dozen experts with doctorates from schools like Cambridge, Princeton, Brandeis, who are recognized authorities in their fields. And Strobel went round and he challenged them with questions like, how reliable is the New Testament? And so I get my glasses off. A little while ago, to fill you in on some of my own search for what can be the truth for me, I'm very careful about saying I'm searching for the truth. In case I might happen to say that I've found my truth, and have a load of people say, well, it's not my truth, it's not the truth for me. And of course we do get that. And I've found that talking about the truth brings an avalanche of varying comments which may make sense to the people that make them, and either do or don't, or somewhere in between makes sense to me. But a little while ago I met a young woman who is a born-again Christian, and at the time she was doing a job in a hospital, and she was working like 10 hours, 12 hours a day. That's how long she was away. So, you know, there I was, I'd found what I considered was the love of my life, and she was always at work. So I felt that I needed to do something, not to fill in the time, because that would make less of what my studies were. But I was walking back from the bank once in Basak, and I passed a store that said the Bible Study Centre. Now apparently, sadly, that Bible Study Centre is now closed, but at that time it actually said free Bible study lessons. I passed it a couple of times, and then I thought, you know, the one thing that I would really like to know more about was Jesus, because I considered him to be this great man, and it was not anything to do with religion to me. It was, I felt, a great spiritual leader. That was how I viewed it. Okay, so that was my feeling at the time, and then I thought, well, wait a minute. Even though I have my own spiritual beliefs, I believe in a creator. Not too hot on organized religion, as you have probably gathered, but I did want to find out about Jesus. So I decided, after passing this place a few times, that I would go in. And I went in and I spoke to a young woman called Sarah, and Sarah was the daughter of the missionary that was in charge of this store, this educational center, this mini school, if you like, and they ran all kinds of different classes and courses and everything like this. And I had a chat with her, and I told her, well, I'm just interested in finding out more about Christ. Now, luckily for me, because it formed a very good bridge, they were not, strictly speaking, a organized religion center. They taught the Bible. So that led me on a journey through the Bible. Now I have to confess that the Old Testament was a struggle for me, but I've now read the Bible. I mean, you know, cover to cover, I've read the Bible. Now, if I was to have to actually swear on the Bible that I'd read every page of the Old Testament, I'd be in a struggle there, okay? But New Testament, I read. And I really wanted to know more about that. Well, the Bible Study Center, what Sarah told me is that we will show you how to study the Bible. How do you work out whether what was said by one apostle was said by another? How do you cross-check what is said, what is stated, what is related as part of a story? How is that corroborated by the story that's told, say, between Matthew and look, how do they match up? Well, that was one study that I went, and I went for several months, and I completed my studies there. Obviously, I didn't complete my studies of the Bible. People go from cradle to the grave and don't complete their studies of the Bible. But this particular book, The Case for Christ, got my attention, and I kept passing it a lot in the last, I think, about a week. I kept passing it by and thinking, oh, I'll have to look at that. And when I first opened it and first started it, I didn't really like Lee Strobel's style. It didn't sit that well with me, because he makes it seem, the way that he writes makes it seem like it has to be made up into a story. And I was looking for something a little bit different to that, but I've now gotten used to that. So let me just give you an example of one of the things. So he goes to see a man called Blomberg, or Blomberg. Blomberg is one hell of a scholar. All right, so that's all I need to tell you. He's one hell of a scholar. And Strobel says, as he settled into a high-back chair, cup of coffee in hand, I too sipped coffee to ward off the Colorado chill. Soon I sensed Blomberg was a get-to-the-point kind of guy. I decided to start my interview by cutting to the core of the issue. And for the life of me, that didn't sit too well, but I got used to it. And now I'm actually into the book, and gosh, where am I? Page 79. Page 79 of 296. It actually has me thinking. He goes, during his investigation, he goes to see various people like Blomberg, and when he lists the things that these people have done, I mean, their qualifications are just awesome. I mean, you know, and they've gone through the Bible as scientists, and they've looked at one point, one of the people that's called to give an analytical view of whether the different stories between the different apostles, between Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, between them, how do they shape up? Do they contradict each other? Are they exactly the same? Are they identical? And this particular man is an expert on looking at whether different accounts of the same incident make sense as evidence. Are they corroborative? And he stated that, well, in true accounts by different people, there will be differences, there will be discrepancies, and sometimes contradictions, and they're necessary for giving a true analysis of whether evidence being presented by different people is true, or whether in fact it's been arranged and choreographed, or however you want to look at that. So it's kind of scientific in a matter-of-fact kind of way, not in any difficult kind of way that you would start, I don't know, listening to what scientists talk about and how they like to talk. They like to do it in a way which nobody likes to understand, a little bit like lawyers, you know, the heretofore and the aforementioned, and so on. But this is more what I call bread and butter talk. You can understand it. Even I could understand it. So maybe you will be able to as well, probably, easily. you'll sail through this. So I'm looking at that book, and it's had a great effect on me, and I'll be telling you, in case you're interested, what effect it has had and how much I've gotten out of it. I got a great deal out of going and finding out more about what Christ said, and this book has had an equal effect on me, even though I'm only on page 79. So that's all from me. Seems like I can't open my mouth for less than 15 minutes. Here we are, 15:39. This is a foreigner in the Philippines talking about books that come out of boxes.